tasty burger.
Welcome to the InSession Film Podcast.
Welcome to episode 666.
I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming.
Devil is here.
I knew that was coming. Well, there's many devilish things we're going to talk about on this episode, so I guess it's only appropriate.
Yeah, it is only appropriate. Episode 666. We are finally here. It took, 12 years into this, but we finally made it to the devil's number.
The whole point of having that patch on your board there was just so we can get to this episode number.
Oh, yeah. I've been waiting 12 years to use it just for that moment, and it was worth it. It was worth waiting the 12 years. I do find it absolutely hilarious that we have this episode now, right smack in the middle of Christmas season, which is famously all about the devil.
Where a different kind of red man is out there doing good deeds for children, as opposed to, the other guy.
Yeah. And look, there's a lot of devilish things happening right now in the world. And we are going to talk about that on this week's episode. We're going to talk about the whole Netflix, Warner Brothers, Paramount debacle, the devils of Hollywood right now, which is the lesser of two evils. A lot of debate, certainly a lot of debate going on. We have mostly avoided this topic. We've been waiting for the right moment. And I think now is a good time to chime in, at least given where things are as it's beginning to escalate. So we'll get to that here shortly. Before we do, there's no easy transition into this. We wanted to celebrate the life and the career of the late Rob Reiner. It is absolutely horrifying and devastating what happened to him and his wife. And our thoughts certainly go out to his family and close friends and everyone affected by his untimely death. And it's gruesome. We hate to see it, but given the circumstances, I at the very least wanted to celebrate Rob Reiner because he is a fascinating filmmaker who's made some all-time movies. His presence on camera, equally captivating behind and on camera. So we wanted to talk about him here. I don't know where to start. I guess the appropriate place to start, Brendan, is that 1984 through 1992 run, although there are other films to certainly talk about. But what we saw a lot of in the aftermath of his immediate passing was everyone talking about how iconic that run was, from This Is Spinal Tap through A Few Good Men. That also includes the likes of Misery, When Harry Met Sally, The Princess Bride, and Stand By Me. Some all-time movies listed there. There are very few filmmakers that can match a run like that. It is truly extraordinary what he was able to do through the 80s and early 90s.
When a passing such as this happens, we often find ourselves maybe overselling certain things about their career because of the tragic nature of their death, and especially with regard to Rob Reiner, the circumstances around his death. It's just so difficult to ignore those circumstances, as dire as they are. But in this particular case, even if we distance ourselves from those circumstances and you look at that run from 1984 through 1992, I'm not going to say that Rob Reiner is the greatest filmmaker of all time, but he might have the greatest run of any filmmaker of all time. And this is something that people were saying way before his unfortunate passing that we are now dealing with. This was kind of common knowledge, right?
Yeah, we've probably brought it up on the show before.
I know.
We've been doing this for 12 years. Rob Reiner has certainly come up several times over the span of those 12 years. So I'm sure in the archives somewhere, we have mentioned it.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is about him as a filmmaker that makes him so great at that time. I mean, I feel like I can articulate it. Not to say I don't know, but the thing that's interesting is that when you compare him to some of his contemporaries at that time, he wasn't doing the flashiest of things as a filmmaker. In fact, his filmmaking style was pretty restrained outside of maybe a few sequences, such as like maybe the phone call sequence in something like When Harry Met Sally, for instance.
Yeah.
Like there's some neat trickery there, but what made him great is that he was just a good storyteller, and he was also a good crowd pleaser. And sometimes we don't often celebrate filmmakers that are really just simply great crowd pleasers. I feel like that's sometimes few and far between nowadays. And he knew how to make movies for everybody
Yeah.
in ways that were still tasteful and artistic in their own way. His movies, visually speaking, just the momentum of them, they felt like they were unfolding like storybooks. And I think that makes sense when you look at movies like Stand By Me and Misery, which are both based off Stephen King novels. They are not just faithful adaptations, but they almost feel novel-like in the way that they move and the way that they flow. And
Yeah.
that was something that he was so good at, especially during that time in that particular run of films that made him such a household name as a filmmaker.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was the king of mainstream filmmaking, and there's nothing wrong with his style or what he brought to his movies. And
Mhm.
there, especially in during that run, there was such a sharp edge to them, such a comedic bite in several of them as well.
Sure.
Also, what's great about that run is how eclectic it is. It is
Mhm.
quite the mix of movies there.
Without feeling too jarring for one another. Like, you look at a
Yeah.
movie like A Few Good Men, and then you compare that to something like Stand By Me or Misery, for instance, you can kind of sense an artistic similarity between them. Even though they were all written by different screenwriters, they all have
Uh-huh.
different genre, explorations, yet they all feel kind of similar in a way.
Yeah, despite all of them essentially being very different movies and coming from
Yeah.
different genres. It's
Yeah.
wild how you can feel his thumbprint on them while being wholly eclectic.
Yeah.
It is quite incredible. And as I noted, I mean some all-time movies there, in particular the two that I guess the three that stand out the most to me are the three there in the middle of the 80s. This is Spinal Tap, I do think is a fantastic mockumentary. I do think it
Mhm.
is really great. I do love it
It's
a
really
lot. I did not get a chance to see the sequel that came out this last year. Kind of wild how circular his career is now when you look at his filmography
That's a good
beginning with
point.
this is Spinal Tap and then ending with the sequel that came out this year. So a little poetic in that regard.
Sure.
That is a really great mockumentary though. But Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, those three truly extraordinary. And I mentioned this on Twitter. I don't know if I have it in me to articulate what Stand By Me means to me personally.
Is that your favorite one of
It's
his
my
films?
favorite one of his films, but I will say The Princess Bride is a close number two. I do really love that film a
Yeah.
lot as well.
It's funny you mentioned those 3 that speak, to you specifically, because those 3 might also be my top 3, and maybe even in that order between Stand By Me, Princess Bride, and When Harry Met Sally. I think
Sure.
those are my top 3.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I think When Harry Met Sally is one of the best rom-coms ever made. But yeah, there's
Mhm.
something about Stand By Me and the gentle tenderness that he brings to that film that just kills me. And there were clips going around of that film the night of his passing, and I
Yeah.
was undone. I was just undone watching those
He knew how
clips.
to direct children at
Yes,
that time. He really did.
truly an all-time movie. I don't know where it ranks for me among my top 50 movies ever made or top 100 movies ever made, but I
Oh,
will
it's
say it's in that mix somewhere.
it's in there for me. It might even be pretty high for me. Could even be top I don't want to confirm that it might be in my top 25 because I haven't done that exercise yet. But Stand By Me was a formative film for me.
Same.
It was one of those
yeah.
films I saw at the right time, at the right age, and I believe this is the case. I don't quite remember, but that might have been the first ever R-rated movie I ever watched.
Yeah.
It may have been either that one or, of all things, it may have been Cliffhanger, the Sylvester Stallone action film. One of those two movies was the first ever R-rated movie I ever watched. But the fact that Stand By Me was one of them means I saw it probably at an age of like 12 years old, roughly around the same age as the main characters of that movie.
Yep.
So the movie just kind of spoke to me for those reasons.
Oh my gosh, it deeply resonates with me. Back when I first saw it in the 90s and very much now as well, I think it holds up gloriously.
Mm-hmm.
We've certainly talked about it on the show before, had it in many top 5 lists, and it's great. It really is an all-time movie, but I think The Princess Bride equally in that conversation as far as all-time movies, let alone the zeitgeist effect of that film as well.
Yeah.
Probably the most popular of his films.
Sure. Yeah.
I would say, I mean, A Few Good Men, people know that movie as well. Misery, people know that as well. I mean, really, that crop from 84 to 92 was so good that you bring 10 people off the street and you mention those movies, 9 of them will probably know them anyway. Like those hard hitters for sure.
He's got 6 classics. And many filmmakers would die to have that many classics in their filmography. And Rob Reiner did it back to back to back to back to back to back.
Crazy, like crazy start to his career, which makes the rest of his filmography a little interesting, right? Because it's hard to live up to that when your first 6 movies or 6 of your first 7 are considered classics in American cinema. It's going to be hard to live up to that, but there are some other good ones here. I like The American President. I do really like as well.
Yeah, I feel like many people would say that was his last truly relevant film as a filmmaker, and I get it. Although, like, there are some that he has done in the 2000s, for instance, as cornball as they might be. Like, I kind of have a soft spot for The Bucket List. I do. I'm not going to lie. I think that movie's kind of charming. It's not great, but it's kind of charming. And he has a few of those. You know, he has a few of those that are just simply charming and very nice movies, and we just don't get enough of those. And honestly, I think it means we take filmmakers like a Rob Reiner for granted when they simply don't live up to their earlier successes, but they're making nice movies, and sometimes that's a good thing and nothing to scoff at.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting is that while he might not have directed anything notable post The American President, although The Bucket List might qualify as notable. It wasn't great, but I think it's a film that a lot of people know. Yeah. And the term The Bucket List was cemented in the zeitgeist in a big way with the release of that film.
Sure.
But post The American President, he's had some quite notable runs on camera.
Absolutely.
With, people bringing up the clip of his little role in The Wolf of Wall Street, which is just fantastic.
I'm gonna say, I know this might be a hot take, but he's the best thing about The Wolf of Wall Street.
You're not going to get a lot of pushback from me. A lot of other people will push back against that, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, I guess we should clarify that you and I, we like that movie, but we're not among the camp that considers it maybe the best movie of the 2010s, like some people do.
Yeah,
It's a fun movie. It's a fun movie.
I enjoy it. I'm just not that high on it as much as others. I'm not like all like it's not. It doesn't make my top 20 of the 2010s. Let's just say that.
No, I don't even know if it made my top 20 of its year, but it was at least close. But man, Rob Reiner in that movie, sides, $25,000 worth of sides,
memorable, incredible, absolutely incredible. And while this is a film podcast, we primarily focus on film, but he had some big moments on the TV side as well. And for me, I was a huge New Girl fan. And he had, I think, 10 episodes on that show that are equally notable and memorable. He was fantastic on that show.
That's a great point. And honestly, it makes me forget just how formative of a talent Rob Reiner was for me, because I mentioned how Stand By Me was a formative film for me. But when I was growing up watching TV, my parents, especially my mom, used to love watching old sitcoms on TV land specifically. It's why one of my all-time favorite TV shows is I Love Lucy, because that was one of her favorite shows. So I love that kind of old-fashioned television sitcom. And another one of these shows that was always on that I actually gravitated towards was All in the Family.
Yeah.
And
of course, you have to mention that, right?
And his character, his meathead, he had this dryness to him that I think in a way sort of formulated my dry sense of humor and the things that I find funny. And I never really thought of that until I got older, and I realized that that type of comedic sensibility is something that I've always latched onto, and it may have at least somewhat partially stemmed from that. So, like, in a way, Rob Reiner kind of helped form my funny bone in a way. I love that. I love that he was weirdly always there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know he made a few appearances in The Bear as well. I have not seen that show,
I haven't seen it either.
I'm sure people that are very familiar with The Bear know his work on that show as well. I assume it's great because he was always great in front of the camera as well. So, so yeah, I mean, I do love that he was very willing to get on camera post his All in the Family days.
Yeah.
And never wavered. It's like he's always been this great actor, even though he might be more known today by his directorial effort, as we just talked about. But can't forget, he's a quite prolific actor. Going back to the 70s.
It's kind of funny because when I was a kid, I used to get him confused with someone else completely. And it was Ron Howard. Just given the fact that their names are so similar and they both came from similar, they both came from similar television-like backgrounds, similar types of TV shows, at least not quite the same time period, but somewhat in the same, I guess, world, if that makes sense. And I always got them confused until I had to learn and grow up and realize, oh no, Rob Reiner's the one that's more consistent. Okay. So he's the good one there.
Yeah. Love Rob Reiner. Again, cannot emphasize enough what Stand By Me means to me. It's an all-time movie as far as I'm concerned. And the other element to this as well, because recently there was a tweet asking for this, and it always comes to mind. Stand By Me is an all-time movie. It also has a Mount Rushmore child performance from River Phoenix.
I was going to say which one. I feel like it's got at least two.
You can choose a couple. I was about to say the whole cast is extraordinary. They're all really, really great. But what River Phoenix brings to that film is sensational. It is.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to power rank the 4 kid actors in Stand By Me, he's probably on top. But I mean,
they're all great.
If someone were to come to me and say that Will Wheaton actually gives one of the best child performances in film, I'm also not going to push back on that.
Yeah, for sure. I would not either. Love that cast. The whole cast is excellent. But yeah, River Phoenix has always been kind of the standout for me there. But yeah, love that movie. Deeply, deeply love that movie. Again, love The Princess Bride. Which I think is on Criterion.
It is
somewhere recently, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if he has anything else on Criterion, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see. I think this is Spinal Tap's on Criterion, or at least it may have been talked about. I don't know. I feel like we're going to get a few others at some point.
Oh yeah, I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if at some point all of those.
It becomes like a box set or something. Criterion's known for doing certain box sets of filmmakers like that, especially if they are that prolific and that consistent at a certain period.
That Rob Reiner box set, those 6 films, worth every penny. Would be worth every penny. Yeah, that is quite fantastic. Again, hate the context, hate that this is why we're having to talk about them. Really, really sad to hear what happened, but wanted to bring him up here and celebrate his incredible career. Notable loss. Tragic loss.
Absolutely devastating.
Okay, again, no easy way to veer out of this, but a hard right turn here. And next, I want to talk about our George Clooney draft. So I got the tweet out, maybe a little late, but it went out.
We got some votes.
We got some votes.
We got some votes on Facebook as well.
Well, that's why this is interesting. I didn't know if you saw the results on Facebook.
I did. I saw the results on both Twitter and Facebook, but it was a couple days ago, so I don't know if anything has changed since then.
Yeah. So here's where we stand. Again, to reiterate, a few weeks ago now, we did a George Clooney draft in anticipation of Jay Kelly. And we put out the poll on Twitter, as we always do, but I also did it on our Facebook group page. If anyone is on Facebook and wants to join in the conversation there, we always have a great time. And the results here are interesting because on Twitter, Brendan won the poll with 82% of the vote on Twitter.
That's a bit of a victory.
On Facebook, I won the poll with 73% of the vote.
Not too different. Now, how many votes were there for each individual count?
So this is where it gets fascinating because I did the math.
Okay.
So collectively between the two, Brendan had 15 votes. Collectively between the two, for me, I had, drum roll, 15 votes.
I knew it was going to be something like that.
We split.
Yeah. I would have been curious if we got more votes than just that. And clearly we didn't get enough votes on either poll, on either avenue to really dissect it further. But it does make me wonder, between Twitter and then Facebook, is it simply coming down to different audiences?
Maybe. It has to some degree. Yeah.
Well, I see that all the time. And I know that movies and film criticism, it doesn't correlate directly to what comparison I'm about to make here, but I do a lot of social media management for the band that I'm in. And I could tell you right now, the engagement that we get on Instagram is wildly different than the engagement that we get on Facebook. It's a completely different age demographic. Facebook is a much older audience, but that could be simply because the music that we create gravitates toward that particular demographic that's just more active on Facebook. But it does make me wonder if high level something similar is happening here. If it's just maybe a different audience that gravitated more towards the films that were on your list for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, the people that are in our Facebook group, there is some crossover, but when you're posting it on Twitter, it's more open to the public. And unlike Facebook, we don't know who is voting. It doesn't give us that information. It's all anonymous. And it may be people that follow us. It may have been a vote that just landed on someone's For You page. I don't really know. But with Facebook, it does give us those insights. And so I'm able to see who voted for Brendan, who voted for me. And it's our Facebook group. So it's people that engage with us on a week-to-week basis anyway. So I'm not surprised that we got overall more votes on the Facebook side of it. But yeah, I thought that was interesting that it was flipped in terms of who won. And again, the disparity between the two on both, just compelling. I don't know if I expected that. I certainly did not expect that at all. And it was funny because I thought it would be close. When I look at both of our groups, I'm like, that feels about even to me. So to see this huge disparity on both platforms, just very funny, but it evened out anyway. So
now if we would have gotten like 1,000 votes on each platform, I do wonder if this would have looked any different. But at the same time, I do think it might be it might be indicative to what you're saying, that George Clooney just simply has a wide range of well-loved roles and films in general. And
Yeah.
it honestly, it doesn't matter how we drafted it because ours ended up equating each other in a weird way.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that was very funny. So I
Yeah.
did want to share the results of that Clooney draft. Moving on, I have a Stingray channel update. I did not get a chance to do this last week with Ryan because we jumped right into the awards conversation and pretty much stuck there the entire time.
And no disrespect to Ryan, but this is our topic. This is for you and I, right?
For sure. Yeah, I don't know if Ryan has even been listening. I don't know if he would have even known what I was talking about. I might have just had to explain the whole thing all over again.
Should we lay the groundwork once again in case we have any new listeners? Just a very high level thing.
Yeah. All right. So quickly, Stingray Movie Music is a channel on Samsung TV. So if you have a Samsung TV like I do, it's built in. It's pre-built in when you buy it. You don't have to pay for this. It's just part of the TV. And it's glorious. There's like 1,000 different channels. A lot of them are niche channels. And one of them is called Stingray Movie Music. And all they do all day long is play, you guessed it, film scores and music from films. And it's really great. Brendan and I, we've been doing this the last, month and a half or so, talking about these crazy experiences I've had watching this channel. It's been great. I definitely urge you to go and check out the archives over the last month or so. This last week, though, Brendan, huge revelations.
Okay. And you didn't text me these, right? Because I know sometimes you text me some of the ones that reveal themselves to you.
Yeah. I don't think so.
I know you texted me the one about Midnight Special.
Well, okay. Well, Brendan ruined the gag, ruined the reveal. I had a whole thing I was going to do here to build up.
I'm sorry. Wow, I'm so bad because I thought we talked about this one already.
No. This was supposed to be last week, but you were gone.
Oh gosh, my dates got all messed up. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's just very funny because I had a whole thing here I was going to do to build.
I thought for some reason I thought you texted me about this one like a month ago or something.
No, this one was really recent. It was very.
Keep in mind, I still think
funny.
it's November, so I guess that just explains it.
Yeah, but the last couple of weeks have been huge, and it was really funny because, like my last update when I was talking about how I was watching a movie, and then I forget what came on, but it might have been Carol. I think it was Carol that came on, and I was like, I gotta stop everything I'm doing, and I gotta go to the TV.
We
one
did
of those
talk about
situations with Midnight Special. It was funny because I'm on my computer and I'm working or watching a movie. I can't really recall, but I'm focused on what I'm doing. But my wife, who is sitting across from me on a different couch, she's there, I think, watching TikTok. And of course, Stingray is on.
Yeah.
And I haven't even asked her this. I don't know if she heard it and maybe it jogged something because I've played the score to Midnight Special countless times in the car or just at home. So maybe she recognized it, or maybe she just happened to look up at the right time to see that it was on. But again, I'm on my computer, so I don't know right away, but in my periphery, I can see her looking at me, like she's trying to get my attention. But she doesn't stand up or say anything or yell anything. I think she was just waiting for it to happen. Like, I'm going to hear this and have this moment. And I think she just wanted to.
She was waiting for the
see
shoe to drop.
Yes. But so I could see her looking at me. And so then I look up and I look at her, and again, doesn't say anything. One of those classic moments in a film where a character just says everything they need to with their eyes. Very much what happens, where I can read her eyes and she's looking at the TV, looking back at me. And so then I'm like, okay, what is going on? And so then my my own eyes veer toward the TV, and what do I see is Michael Shannon's face on my screen for Midnight Special. And so as soon as I take out my headphones, I hear that main theme from Midnight Special. It is a miracle, Brendan, that my laptop did not fall off the couch and break into 100 pieces because I jumped.
I was half expecting that maybe you would have just slammed it on the ground because you were that excited. You know, like you scored a touchdown or something.
Yes,
like that.
It was kind of that. Like I just jumped up. Thankfully, I think my computer just fell onto the couch.
Oh gosh!
But it's very possible because it was the last thought I had in my mind. It's just very possible that it landed on the ground and shattered, which would have been a horrible disaster and would have made the story, I think, all the more funny. But
at the mercy of Midnight Special and Jeff Nichols.
Yeah, but thankfully that had happened. But I jumped up and I got close to the TV like a 2-year-old. Like at least when we were younger, I was gonna say like a 2-year-old watching Saturday morning cartoons, but those don't exist anymore, which is very sad. But I got close to the TV and immediately started to well with tears, like just immediately, like it just like clockwork.
What was your wife's reaction as she just watched?
Just shaking her head like, you're silly.
I married a weirdo. I love it.
Yeah, married a weirdo. Exactly. And I'm having a full-on geek out experience. Listening to the score and again, like watching the clips from the film kind of come and go. And you know, and again, like they show those clips of like him like kneeling down at that classic moment, or you know, the stuff with the car at the end. Like I had a full out of body experience. It was unbelievable.
Were any of your kids in the room, or did they see?
No, they had gone to bed.
They had gone to bed. Okay,
they were already asleep. And I'm just grateful Brandy was there. Otherwise, I think I would have missed it because I was fully into whatever I was doing. I wasn't even paying attention at all. So if she wasn't there, I probably would have missed it, and it would have been the worst thing that ever happened to me. But I'm so grateful that she was able to get my attention because my God, it was a really fun moment. And again, just further proof, because why on earth would a channel dedicated to movies play that score from that movie? Nobody talks about that outside of the InSession Film Circle. I feel like you and I are keeping the Midnight Special thing alive.
I know.
The rest of film Twitter, like, or the rest of the film community almost forgets that movie exists. Yeah,
because when most people even talk about Jeff Nichols at large, what movie are they mostly referencing? Take Shelter. I feel like yeah.
Take Shelter. And look, Take Shelter is a great movie. Don't get me. I understand why that's the first one that comes to mind. Maybe Loving, because that
was more of an Oscar player.
Kind of an Oscar player. And I didn't even mention this, but I did see Loving some weeks ago. But
interesting, yeah.
I like the music to that film. I do like it all. I mean, it's not my favorite Nichols film, but it is good. It is quite good.
Great performances. Ruth Negga is fantastic in it.
Yeah, I completely agree. So maybe I should have been more primed that Nichols is on the radar. But again, that channel is run by cinephiles, like true cinephiles. And that's why I think they stole my playlist because I've probably listened to that track more than more than any other.
They were clearly inspired by your playlist. They certainly used it as a reference point, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like they had to have.
Like if you're Stingray, and like it would be so easy for them to just get caught up into pandering to the mainstream, right? So we're gonna do
but you Pirates
can only
take
of the
that
Caribbean
so far.
Well, and that's what I find interesting. Yeah. Like they could easily just do Harry Potter and all the superhero movies, and they do have superhero hour, so all of that comes on, or your classics and you're singing in the rains and all that sort of stuff. And that has
So-
been there, but I do love that they equally showcase those small indie gems that only cinephiles know. Like
Well,
the
that's
mainstream
the-
audience would not know half of those movies.
So I guess in a way, what Stingray is doing, and whoever's running their marketing department, their outreach department, this should be celebrated because in a
Yeah.
way, it's kind of like trying to preserve something like Turner Classic Movies in a very indirect way. On
Mhm.
one hand, they're catering to those who maybe love high level entertainment, the most obvious great scores out
Yeah.
there, the Star Warses, the Jurassic Parks, the Indiana Joneses of the world.
Yeah.
And yet then they'll throw in something so obscure as if it's a way of introducing this newly acquired individual to maybe
Yeah.
want to discover something that sounds kind of cool. So
Mhm.
it kind of becomes like an infomercial of classic cinema in a way.
Yeah.
It's kind of
It's-
great, honestly.
I love it. I think it's brilliant. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant. And I love that they dabble into all different kinds of genres and movies. It's just
Mhm.
it's remarkable. And yeah,
Yeah.
that midnight special moment was certainly one of my favorites. But I also wanted to highlight as well, and I knew you would get a kick out of this. I might have even taken a picture of it, but I ran out of time and forgot to send it to you.
Mhm.
They also played, and I feel like this was brought up recently, but I'm trying to recall where you and I would have brought this up in conversation. It actually might have been in relation to our Richard Linklater, Ethan Hawke conversation that we've had with Blue Moon and all of that recently. But Miles Ahead, Don Cheadle, I thought was a really
wow.
fun moment. And again, like one of those small, very under the radar movies from 2014, I believe it was.
But okay, but now my question is, I don't know if we talked about this one, but my question is, was it a piece of original score from the movie, or was it a Miles Davis track, or at least one that was reinterpreted for the movie? Because if it was
That's a
the
great
latter,
question. I'm not
then
sure.
it becomes twofold. It becomes sort of this strange marketing pitch for the movie itself, but then it also becomes an introductory point to jazz music as well.
Yeah,
if it
no,
actually
it was
is a
definitely
Miles song.
jazzy in genre and style. So like I'm not sure. I wish, and maybe in my photo, because I did take a photo. Maybe it's on there, and I'd have to look.
I don't know if you shared this one with me, so if you do have a photo
Yeah,
of this one, I'd like to see it.
I'll see if I can find it afterwards. But yeah, they played Miles Ahead. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like we just talked about this, or it was brought up in some fashion, and here we are. There's Don Cheadle.
That's wild because
incredible.
Because I know there's a soundtrack album for that movie that is kind of related to the movie. It's the composer for that movie is Robert Glasper, who is actually a pretty well regarded jazz musician nowadays. He's a piano player, but he also put out an album called Everything's Eventual that was tied to the movie that reinterprets many of Miles's classic songs, but also adds features from vocal musicians to add some lyrics to some of them. There's even a few hip hop musicians as well. So kind of proves the point that jazz music was kind of the building block of hip hop music. So I wonder if it was something like that, or if it was a piece from the actual movie.
I can't
You got my
recall.
music
Yeah.
nerdism going right now.
I know.
I really want to see what this is.
I wish that I could remember what it was. Again, maybe it's on my phone. I'll try to look afterwards. But
okay.
anyway, either way, I thought it was cool. Just again, because it's one of those movies that is not pandering to your mainstream audience. Like
Sure.
that's a pick for like cinephiles and film lovers. Like you and I know that movie, not
Right.
many other people. Like my brother would have no clue. Like my family would have no clue if they were watching this. But that's the beauty of the channel, though, is that it's
Yeah.
like they know their audience. Like your regular Joe Schmo off the street probably isn't watching that channel. Cinephiles are.
Right.
And so I love that that's who they tailor all their stuff to. It's great. Do love it a lot. Those were the two from the last couple of weeks that I very much wanted to note here.
So a
in my
great topic
Stingray
that
update.
a great topic that celebrates movies. Maybe a nice transition to the exact opposite of that.
Oh, well, perhaps. I do want to get to Netflix first. Before we do, though,
That's what I meant. Yeah.
before we do, we'll get to that here in a second. Quickly, though, because Shadon on this week's Chasing the Gold did go over the Oscar shortlist. But I'm curious what you think about the Oscar shortlist. If there's, well, I know there's at least one category that came to mind because you tweeted about it today as we are recording this. But any overarching thoughts on those shortlists and what we'll expect to see
Well,
here in
yeah,
about a
yeah.
month's time when the nominations come out?
Yeah, you were stealing my thunder there a little bit, because the one category that probably pissed me off the most was best cinematography. Because other than that one, I would say most of what I saw, and keep in mind, I saw it pretty briefly. I didn't really digest or study it as actively as I probably should have for the purpose of this conversation. But most of what I saw, I thought was pretty predictable, pretty much expected. With regard to best cinematography, it just made me realize how great of a year 2025 was for playing with the form and trying new things and being innovative as a filmmaker and as a cinematographer to kind of create like a new language of sorts with how you film a movie. And the list includes many of the most basic, obvious picks that you can think of. And the fact that a movie like Wicked for Good is on there, as many people have already jokingly talked about, kind of baffling that that's on there, and a movie like 28 Years Later is not even on there. So
Yeah.
it kind of made me realize that there's a lot that's being celebrated for awards purposes this year that feel like they all came out strictly as awards players, when there are just as many equally great films, if not better films, that many of us have just simply forgotten about. And sadly, they're not being as represented on this short list as I think they should be. But many of them will be represented on our award show, and that's all that matters.
Yeah. The short list for the Oscars, I'm guessing based off of a overview here, is not going to completely cross over to the InSession Film Awards.
No,
some
this
of it certainly will, but yeah, it's certainly left a little bit to be desired, especially from a cinematography perspective, because that one also stood out to me.
Yeah.
There are some films listed here that are actually quite inspired that I do think are really great.
Sure.
And then there are others you just have to laugh at. It is astonishing that they are here.
Yeah.
And you laugh so you don't cry, I guess. Like, because it's crazy. Like, some of it is absolutely wild.
Yeah, I just felt like looking at that category in particular, and I do think it's also emblematic of many of the other categories as well. It seems as though, like, if you were someone that didn't really watch any movies in 2025 and you wanted to look at what some of the best ones were, and your way of doing that was looking at this short list, you might think to yourself, oh, so only 20 or 30 movies came out last year? That's it? Because I felt like it was a representative, it was represented everything that was simply in the club for this year. I didn't really sense as much innovation behind some of those picks, and I found that to be unfortunate.
We live in a world, Brendan, where the Electric State is on the Oscar shortlist. Can you imagine if that film gets a nomination?
And I mentioned a movie like 28 Years Later. Was that on any shortlist?
No, and that is astonishing to me. I understand that it might not have been this huge box office juggernaut, but there are so many other movies on here, and maybe it just comes down to the genre bias at play.
Sure.
But it is crazy to me. Like, I just don't understand how you can look at the craft of that film and go, you know what? No, Wicked for Good instead. What are we doing here? Are we going to take this seriously or not? Like, it blows my mind. Like, it makes no sense to me whatsoever. And that's not to say that Wicked for Good shouldn't be considered. I personally think it shouldn't, but if others disagree, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying you have to like the film like 28 Years Later, but that's a movie that, from a cinematography perspective, from a performance perspective, from a score perspective, like, it's as deserving as anything that we see here. And the fact that it wasn't really considered at all for any of these categories, are you kidding me?
And
like
and that's the thing. I felt like many of these movies being represented on these shortlists are ones that kind of fit within many different categories. It's as if like, oh, this movie's a player here. Well, now we got to fill a slot somewhere with this other category by incorporating that film here. I almost feel like the whole game of best editing at the Oscars, it's usually just a list of the 5 movies nominated for Best Picture. That's kind of historically what it has been, right? I felt like that principle was applied to over half the categories on this short list, which is not something you always see. A lot of times you see a pretty decent variety and some pretty inspired films and performances on these short lists before the nominations actually come out. But I felt less of that this time around.
Yeah. And I do want to speak to that, but just to bring some further cogency to the 28 years later thing. That's a movie that made $151 million worldwide on a $60 million budget.
That's
okay. So that's not necessarily Wicked numbers. It's obviously not Avatar numbers. It's not going to contend for top 10 at the box office this year, but that's not terrible for that kind of movie. That's pretty good. And also it has an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is better than several of the other movies that are listed here.
Well, it's also a movie, or at least a franchise rather, that's top of mind because there's another movie coming out next month. And that movie was screened for a lot of people already. And the hype was apparently way higher than even the production company expected.
Yeah.
To the point that now the third movie's already been greenlit. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, it just, like, to me, it just screams the bias, the genre bias.
Yeah.
God forbid you have a horror film at your ceremony. God forbid. And not to mention that without the horror genre, God knows where this industry would be given the financial hurdles that they've had over these last few years. Like, the horror genre has been making a lot of money and keeping the industry afloat in a lot of ways. Because even Weapons underperformed by what a lot of people had expected. Because I think it missed makeup. And a lot of people were predicting it to be in there. So what are we doing here? Like I just don't understand why. Well, I guess that's a can of worms we can get into later, but we all know that there is a bias there. And I think it's still very active. Like, this Academy is clearly very different than what it was 10 years ago, let alone 20, 30 years ago. It has improved drastically, and I very much do appreciate that. But we still have to get over this hurdle. We got to get over the genre hurdle.
And honestly, I don't mean this as a negative or even a backhanded compliment or a backhanded comment or anything on some of these films I'm about to mention, but really the only time we ever see horror celebrated at the Academy Awards, it's when it's a movie that's more horror adjacent than anything else. So we have a movie like Sinners this year that is going to be a huge Oscar player. Probably the closest that we'll see a horror movie get so heavily represented, at least as of late, but it's not really a horror movie, like it kind of is, but it kind of isn't. Maybe the same could be said about Bong Joon-ho's Parasite from some years ago. It's got some horror touches to it, but it's not really a horror film. I feel like those are the closest times that we ever get to a horror movie being represented in some way, is that it has to be kind of adjacent to the genre, as opposed to being like a 100% participant in that genre. Whenever that happens, it tends to be that bias that you're talking about, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope one day we can remedy those gaps, because it does seem like we're heading in the right direction. So hopefully in time we're able to fix those gaps that are still clearly present. So so that was certainly something that kind of irked me about these shortlists. The other thing too, I want to speak to score real fast. I don't know if you got a chance to look at the short list here for original score.
Let me see if I can
And
pull it up
again,
again.
this is my favorite category, but I'm starting to feel about this category. Well, I guess I've felt this way for a little while now, but I feel about original score the same way I do about the NHL. Again, bringing it back to sports. Because I think hockey is the best sport.
Okay.
I deeply love it. I think it's great. It is phenomenal. I think a lot of people would love it if they give it a chance. Honestly, again, just to take us down a detour real fast, some of my favorite TikToks right now are people discovering the sport because of the Four Nations face-off. And I especially love it because it's people of color. It's people that you aren't usually like the LGBTQ community as well. Like it's people that aren't associated with hockey culture that are finding the sport and falling in love with it.
Right.
That to me is great. The sport is growing. I think if a lot of people gave it a genuine shot, I think they would fall in love. It's a really, really great sport, but it is run by the worst league. Great sport, worst league. The NHL as an entity, boy, do they have a lot of problems. A lot of problems.
That's fair.
And I am starting to feel that way about the music branch of the Academy. Original score, my favorite category. Best category, if you ask me.
Okay. Yeah.
Worst branch. Worst branch. Like they just don't know what they're doing. I do not understand half of these nominees. Some of them are very good. Some of them are very good. Now, the 5 that end up making it, and maybe this is politics, I don't know how the branch works. Hey, let's throw in some terrible scores, not terrible, but like fine scores in the short list. So that way the 5 that we want to really be nominated kind of rise at the top, so to speak.
Yeah, just to make it more obvious.
If it's one of those. Yeah. And look, that's a conspiracy theory that I don't know if I can be talked out of, because this is a short list that includes the likes of Captain America: Brave New World.
That's just sad.
What are you doing?
That's just sad.
Thunderbolts, if we're going to have a score from a big mainstream movie this year and you don't include Sun Lux, but you have Captain America: Brave New World.
Well,
you're not taking this seriously. I'm sorry, you don't care.
It's
or
not
you
even,
don't know what you're doing.
You know, I can actually kind of understand not including Sun Lux for Thunderbolts because it's not the most easily digestible score, which is something I actually love about it. It's not as immediate. You really have to kind of like think about it and understand it. But to your point about what we're doing here, what about Fantastic Four? Michael Giacchino's score for that movie kind of sold the movie, right?
Yeah.
Like that was kind of baked into the marketing. People went to see the movie because that theme was so great. And if you're going to pick something from, let's say, Marvel specifically, and you pick Captain effing America: Brave New World, that scares me, honestly, for the future of this branch.
Like, it's terrible. And if it's not just blatant corruption or blatant fraud, it's name recognition or name brand that is getting in here. And we've known that to be the case for some time anyway with the Academy. But like Diane Warren, Relentless, what are we doing?
I mean,
again,
anything that she is tied to, whether it be for best original score or best song, it's going to get a nomination. It just happens every time. It's like clockwork.
Yes. Or even F1. Like people are pushing F1. F1 is the most fine movie to ever, like it got like 6, it's on here like 6 different times. And it is the most fine movie of the year. And I love Hans Zimmer. That is a really fun score. Do not get me wrong. I am not anti F1, but is it short list quality? Maybe. I would take it over Captain America. I would take it over Avatar Fire and Ash. I would take it over
Yeah.
Wicked. And another one in terms of brand names that's on this list that I was about to bring up next, Tron Ares. I would take F1 over all of those, to be perfectly fair. But I don't think that score touches Thunderbolts as far as I'm
No,
concerned.
I agree. Honestly, I think with Hans Zimmer being here for F1, I feel like that's just a makeup for not including him for Rush.
And look, if that's the remedy, if that's the case, then maybe I can live with that. If that is the argument, okay.
Because I
and look,
assume Rush was not nominated for Best Original Score when that came out.
it wasn't. I don't know if it was on the short list though. That could be a different story.
That
altogether.
it may have been, and that's a great point.
Like,
I don't
know
remember that.
But those scores here, like Avatar, Captain America, I guess I will include F1 as being okay for the time being. But like Avatar, Captain America, Tron Ares, Wicked, Nuremberg, even Jay Kelly. I mean, totally uninspired. Those are uninspired picks. And that, like, I listed not quite half, but close to half.
Yeah.
Like, I just, at a certain point, I like my favorite category, and I just cannot take this branch seriously. I can't. They are a joke. I haven't seen Truth and Treason, so I don't want to speak to that. But they also do have some inspired picks here.
Yeah.
And I would even go to bat for A House of Dynamite. I think that one was, like that one, I think is maybe a bit underrated. Now, would I have it on a short list category? Like, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have A House of Dynamite, but it is one of those that's so far under the radar, and the better of his two scores this year, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So,
Hedda is a great score. I'm happy
Hedda
to see
is great. That one
Yeah.
is inspired, for sure. So I love that. Begonia as a overall film has been kind of under the radar, so that one I think is interesting. Sarat is especially inspired. I love that. Wake Up Dead Man is a bit inspired.
That's pretty inspired. Yeah.
I like that as well. So like, and others like Sinners, One Battle, we expect to be here. Love that they are here. Hamnet, expect to be here. Love that Hamnet is here. Marty Supreme. We haven't talked about Marty Supreme yet, but perhaps spoiler alert for that review. I'm glad that that's here as well. So like, again, like this just feels like a list that is tailor made to, we want Sinners in, we want One Battle in, we want Marty Supreme in, we want Hamnet in, and then maybe Frankenstein. And so like you put a bunch of
it's a manipulative
mediocre
thing
around that, and it's like,
good
okay,
one.
well, those stand. It just feels utterly fraudulent and corrupt.
It feels manipulative. You're absolutely right.
I will say though, sorry, my last thought. I know
you're
I've
good.
been rambling here, and then you can go.
You're passionate. I love it.
I do deeply appreciate. Look, I've gone hard on the branch, but I deeply, deeply appreciate. I am grateful that Train Dreams is here. Because it has been quite lost in the shuffle. That score, which blows my mind, I think it should be a lock for a nomination. I don't think it's getting in, but at least it made the short list. At least they watched that film and listened to it and went, okay, we can't ignore that one. And it I wouldn't have put it past these guys to just ignore a great score like that, but thankfully they didn't. I'm glad it's at least recognized in this way.
You're right, yeah, because I feel like it should be a lock, and I think at least a month or so ago, a movie like Train Dreams was more of a lock in many categories, and while it still made many of the short lists for these categories, I feel like Train Dreams as a movie, to your point, is sort of getting lost in the conversation to the point that when the actual nominees come out and Train Dreams gets 0 nominations, I don't know if I would be surprised, honestly. I don't think that's realistic. I think given the fact that we get up to 10 movies nominated for Best Picture, we're probably going to get a movie like Train Dreams in that 10. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised. And I think it's kind of interesting to see how these narratives are shifting this year, sometimes so rapidly, even more rapidly than I think we've ever seen before. And I just find that fascinating, honestly.
I do as well. the last thought I have on here, because I know we want to talk about the whole Netflix debacle, but just again, speaking to the music category or the music branch.
Yeah.
Original song, looking at this short list, I think it's virtually guaranteed that if Netflix submitted the whole soundtrack for K-pop Demon Hunters, it gets in. Looking at this short list, I think they all get in. I think the whole goddamn album gets in if they submit it. I think they missed an opportunity here. I think Netflix got selfish. I still think Golden has a great opportunity to win the whole thing.
Well, yeah. At the same time, though, again, best original song here. I'm kind of half tempted to say the exact same thing that I said about the best original score category, but there are some very inspired picks here on this short list. Most notably, the song From Highest to Lowest, for instance. I love that is here. I love that the song Our Love from the Ballad of Wallace Island is on here, a movie that I think is vastly overlooked. Like, that's cool to see. So as cool as it would have been to see best original song populated by 5 nominees from one movie, I'm also glad that it's not happening to make room for something like that potentially. But it still would have been funny, to your point.
I also want the 2006 Academy to come back for a moment, at least for this category, because I think they would have voted for Trunks From Highest to Lowest. That's who they would have voted for. And that would have been really fun.
Oh, gosh.
That would have been great.
What a song. I love Trucks. I love that so much.
I do as well. And you know that Academy was ready to get down with that song.
Oh my gosh. That would have been, you're right. The 2006 Academy, if they're willing to get down with 3-6 Mafia, they're willing to get down with your truck.
Like, exactly.
You know, it's hot out here for them.
Incredible. Like, I can't get over the fact that 3-6 Mafia is an Oscar winner. Unreal.
One of the best hip hop songs of the 2000s, honestly.
Yeah. So like the 2000s Academy gave that award away to 2 rap songs.
Yeah.
Just
I love that.
mind-blowing. Like, I love that so much. Anyway, I think K-pop Demon Hunters, huge missed opportunity. I think fair. They could have easily gotten several more in here. Easily.
Yeah.
Just real quick, I think a few notable things. You mentioned Fantastic Four not getting into score, which is crazy to me. They also didn't get in for VFX. And again, another one of those, I look at some of the short list. I shouldn't say nominees, but the titles here for the short list. And it's like, okay, don't understand that one. Either Wake Up Dead Man not in casting is
that's
one
weird.
Of those, like, what are we doing here?
That's weird. That's really weird because I feel like that's a movie that's designed to be nominated for that category.
Yeah, very much. And I mean, we kind of talked about it in our review in the sense that, I mean, you could argue that so much of the cast is wasted and the film purposefully does that. So maybe that's why it doesn't get in here.
Yeah, the balance isn't quite as there as, let's say, movies like Knives Out or Glass Onion, for instance, which were more ensemble pieces. Wake Up Dead Man is deliberately not an ensemble piece. It's a Josh O'Connor / Daniel Craig movie that just happens to have really famous, brief supporting performances in it. But at the same time, that still takes a lot of work for a great casting agent to fill those roles. I agree. That's the whole point of this category.
That's the whole point. Yeah. So so maybe that keeps it from getting nominated, perhaps, but to not be on the short list,
like, that's weird. That is kind of weird. Yeah.
And I'm also just kind of curious because this is really funny. We just talked about Is This Thing On, which didn't get anything here either. But at the end of that review, we talked about Searchlight maybe saving all of the resources for the Testament of Ann Lee. They didn't get anything. That nobody is voting for that movie, at least with the Academy.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wild.
I wonder if that's a movie that just not enough people have seen yet.
It's not out yet. obviously, so it just might not be on people's radar. I don't know, like that for that film to just completely miss it is strange. It is strange.
It is.
Yeah, because like again, that's another one of those that when it comes to music, should be on the short list for the music categories. Have you seen it yet?
Wait, which
The
one again? I'm
Testament?
sorry.
The
Oh no, I
Testament
have
Man?
not. I have not.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on my list to get to, and I'm going to get to it before we actually end our campaign.
Yeah.
That's one I haven't gotten to yet, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think a couple of weeks before we get to that one. So plenty of time. So no worries at all. I was just curious if you had any.
No, I'm really looking
opinion
forward
on
to it
because the music. I mean, say what you will about the film, but the music is extraordinary.
Yeah, the movie looks interesting. Looks
Yeah,
really
like,
interesting.
Again, and I think there's an original song for that, and there's the score. If we're going to be talking about quality, and you look at the competition here, what is actually shortlisted trumps half to 3/4 in both categories.
Yeah.
Easily.
It was fun kind of doing this when we were also working up our final nominations for our InSession Film Awards that'll be published sometime soon. And I'm sitting here thinking like, man, I don't align with the Academy this year at all on a lot of things. Granted, there are quite a few things I still have to do some homework on, but at the same time, it's like this is an interesting year. We'll probably talk about that very thing when we actually do our award show in a month's time, about our alignment with the year as a whole versus the awardsy side of the year, because I feel like those are two very different conversations.
They are, and there's a chance that I'll line up to some degree more so than I thought a month and a half ago. It'll just depend on what the actual nominations are, because we're just talking about the shortlist here. So there are a lot of movies on the shortlist that I do really love, but what do the actual nominations look like? And that's
that'll create a different narrative.
Yeah. So we'll see when we get to that point. But I guess on that note, as Brennan mentioned, the InSession Film Awards, it's coming. We're about a month out, maybe a little less than a month out from the InSession Film Awards. We have what, 4 more weeks? 4 more weeks?
Ish.
Yeah, because it's going to be episode 670, I believe, looking at the schedule here. Episode 670. So 4 more weeks. Be on the lookout. It's going to be a lot of fun. Cannot wait.
Probably long once again, but maybe we'll be able to try to rein things in just a little bit this time.
All right, Brennan, let's talk about coffee. I love some coffee.
Oh my gosh.
It is the best thing on the planet.
It's so therapeutic. It gets me up in the morning, and I'm glad I actually have some coffee that tastes good.
Oh, it's the best. If you're going to drink coffee, you might as well drink the good stuff. I mean, you could stop at a chain. I'm not going to name names, but you could stop at a chain coffee store and get some mediocre coffee that maybe requires you or incentivizes you to put in a whole bunch of nonsense.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're either
sugar
getting
and caramels.
You're either getting burnt coffee or caffeinated milk. That's basically what you get.
Yeah, on all of that adds up, both in terms of calories and also in terms of price. You don't have to be paying $15 for a coffee. You don't. That's why we love Coffee Cult, because they source specialty grade coffee from all over the world. They have coffee from Brazil, from Ethiopia, from Colombia, from Costa Rica. Where else? From the Komodo Dragon Islands. Like and that's for real, by the way.
Love it. It made it sound like it wasn't real the way you stuttered into that, but I love that.
Well, I was trying to think of the actual island. I think it's called like Flores or something like that. But
it's true. Coffee Cult gets their coffee from everywhere.
They get it from everywhere. And it's great. I mean, again, we're talking about the top 2% of coffees in the entire world, the high-end gourmet coffees, and they take extra measures to make sure that each bean that they roast is of the highest quality. They're not accepting defects in any of their coffee. It's all high-end.
Yeah, and not only that,
fantastic.
it's also coffee sourced ethically from various
It's
farms.
sourced ethically, absolutely. They only work with farms that they trust, that they know very well. They have direct relationships with the farmers. Not every company can say that. And so they go the extra mile. So yes, it's going to be a little pricier than your store-bought coffee that just sits on shelves. Coffee Cult doesn't do that. They roast to order. So your order comes in, it is roasted that week and sent off to you that same week. So your coffee is extremely fresh every single time. And it is truly game changing. When you try this coffee, I promise you, you are going to taste the difference in the flavor organically, and the natural flavors in the coffee are just excellent. So if you're a dark roast fan, there's a couple of great options. If you're a medium roast fan, they have blends, they have single origins that are fantastic. I deeply love it. Cannot recommend it enough. This time of year, my favorite is their holiday blend, which is Christmas in a mug. It is so good. It has those dark, chocolatey, nutty notes that you love from a dark roast, but it also has this sweet, subtle fruitiness to it. So it's like having a great Christmas holiday dinner and dessert all in one drink. It's just the best. Right now, if you go to Coffee Cult, use our code coffeecult.com, coffee with a K, cult with a K, coffeecult.com. Use our code ISF25. Again, that code is ISF25 at checkout. That's 15% off. I promise you, you're going to love this coffee. Go check it out. Coffeecult.com, and we thank them for their support. All right, Brennan, let's talk about the InSession Film Store.
Let's talk about
and
swag.
T-shirts, swag. Your support means the world to us. It's how we fund this whole thing.
Yeah.
Your support is incredible, and one way to support us is by buying InSession Film swag on our store.
Absolutely.
And we have all kinds of great designs on there. In fact, I am currently working on a few of them. I've been slowly working on a design for one battle after another. I
was going to say, where is that one?
I can't quite get it to where I'm fully in love with it, and I'm too obsessed. I don't want to put up something that I'm only okay with. So I'm trying to get it right. And once I do, I will put it on the store. But I have a couple of other designs that I'm currently working on as well.
Okay.
So I'm hoping to have a few actually here in the next few weeks, like as we get to the Oscars.
I was going to say, we're getting close to award season. Well, I mean, we're in award season, but we're getting close to the Oscars specifically. So having a design for one battle after another would be really exciting. But for those who are interested in some swag that represents this particular award season, at the very least, we have a great one up for Sinners already.
Yep, we got a great one up for Sinners. I have, like, our most popular one is the design I have from the Wild Robot from last year.
I love how that one became the most popular one when we sort of tripped on it by accident during an episode one time.
I know. It just kind of came out organically, and I love that shirt. In fact, I think I wore it yesterday. I should have worn it on the show this week. But it's one of my favorites as well. We have a great design for the film score junkies out there. That's also one of my favorite T-shirts that we have. But we have all kinds of stuff. If you go to InSessionFilm.com/store or InSessionFilm.dashery.com, which is who hosts our store there. There you'll be able to see all of the designs. Just click on the design, click on the color T-shirt you want, the size that you need, all that sort of stuff. There are sales happening all the time over there as well. Dashery is run through TeePublic. So if you go to TeePublic and you see any sales going on, take advantage. Because we have another popular one is our Lester Bangs quote.
I love that one.
Lester Bangs
I love that one so much.
That also gets some good play as well. That one is really fun. So, InSessionFilm.dashery.com. There you'll see all of our designs. And again, I have some more coming very soon for movies in 2025. or InSessionFilm.com/store. You'll see all the stuff there as well, including logos. We got the main logo, Women in Session logo, Chasing Gold logo, just all that sort of stuff is on there. So again, thank you to everyone that supports us by getting some swag. If you do buy some swag, take a selfie. We want to see you in your
Tag
t-shirt.
us in it. Yeah.
Tag us at InSession Film on all the social medias. We would love to see it. So again, InSessionFilm.com/store or InSessionFilm.dashery.com. And we thank you for your support. Exactly. All right, Brendan, let's talk about
The devil. We're talking about the devil.
The giant red N on your TV screen.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they chose red, because they're devil.
Satanic.
Or is Paramount the devil? I think that's what's so unfortunate. Maybe that's the word here that we find ourselves in, that Warner Brothers is having to sell themselves, which is devastating because they have had the best year of any of the major studios.
Yeah.
They've grossed what, over $4 billion.
Yeah.
And they
said,
actually, you know what?
Yeah.
We're done. We're out of here.
And they actually distributed movies, cinematic experiences.
Yeah.
Budgeted modestly, and they were well-oiled machines this year.
Yeah. And yet they are still having to sell themselves away. Zaslav has done such a terrible job of running that company into the ground that they apparently have no choice but to sell to either Paramount, to Netflix, or the highest bidder. And it has seemingly come down to those two. Now, the recent report as of a week ago or so at this point, as we are recording this, Netflix had won the bid. But Paramount said, hold on a second. And they're desperately trying to get in this last minute bid. I don't know if it's going to do anything.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? And what do you think about Netflix winning this bid? What do you think about Sarando saying that, Warner Brothers stuff, we're going to make sure that goes to theaters, wink, wink. We're going to make sure it gets its windows. That's what he's saying. But the devil in the room, I think there's a lot of reason to be nervous here.
Okay, so we should also clarify, we were gearing up to talk about this topic a few times on the main show and decided to hold off because every time we were about to, some new development came into light that shifted or at least extended the conversation. And who knows, in a couple days, we'll probably get some new development that we're just not ready for. As of right now, Netflix did win the initial bidding war. That doesn't mean that they won. They didn't win Warner Brothers per se. They don't own Warner Brothers yet. They just won the bidding war. And from what I understand, that might be a 2-year-long process of trying to work out negotiations that may not even come into fruition. In a way, it kind of gives Netflix the upper hand to, even if they don't win the bid, they prevent other bids from potentially happening. So it kind of gives them a weird competitive edge, which I feel like is maybe what their agenda ultimately is. But then, of course, Paramount being run by, I think it's David Ellison.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, it's one of the Ellisons.
I am familiar with the Ellisons.
Yeah. But I mean, that's a business family right there that is certainly known for their hostile takeovers, right? And that is essentially what their agenda was with trying to acquire Warner Brothers. I believe that their offer was maybe something like $30 a share over top of Netflix's $27 or something like that. Basically, it was more of a cash offer specifically. The reason I bring up that background, because the last I heard, and I don't know if this is official, you might have to fact check me on this, JD. I believe I heard that Warner Brothers has very much openly said, no, we are not pursuing Paramount now. And I think I heard that just as early as yesterday. So I don't know if that's even happening anymore. And on top of that, I believe that there was a news report now, an interview with Ted Sarandos regarding this potential acquisition with Warner Brothers, and that he very openly said this is not something comparable to something like how Disney Plus ran, or Disney rather, ran their many acquisitions some years ago. This is not a fusion of properties. Warner Brothers would still be its own thing. The theatrical window would still be its own thing. And this is Netflix's way of trying to get into a business that they've never even participated in before, which would then also lead to even less layoffs when compared to other acquisitions from other companies in the past. I believe that that's where we're at right now. What he's saying there sounds great on paper. I don't know if I necessarily buy it. To your point, that is the big elephant in the room. And even if they being Netflix, if they're still maintaining Warner Brothers as a theater experience, what does that mean for the window itself? Because I think that is a huge talking point that we're not addressing yet. That's a very long-winded way of me saying, you could say all the good things you want. I'm nervous about both of these. Both of these being, whether it be Netflix or Paramount. I'm nervous for different reasons, but I'm still nervous nonetheless, primarily because I don't want to see the monopolization of this business. I think competition is healthy for this business. I think it's needed, and I don't want to see that limited, regardless of what cinematic body is looking to even purchase Warner Brothers. That's the thing that scares me, for reasons we can talk about further, but I don't like this very much.
I don't like it either. I think it's going to be a disaster no matter where it goes. I don't believe Sarandos when he says that Warner Brothers movies and trying to maintain the integrity of the theatrical window. I just don't buy it. I think it's all business speak.
I think it's a smokescreen.
I think it's a smokescreen as well, because he's been quite adamant about wanting to shrink those windows and get those movies to Netflix, or now in this case as well, HBO Max, and getting them to those streaming platforms as soon as possible. So I don't think he's going to honor the theatrical window. That will have huge ramifications, of course. But you compare that to Paramount and the Ellisons, who are also very, very dubious. Now, Paramount might honor the theatrical window a little bit more than what Netflix would, but there's also the political side of this, and not to get too political here, but they are very, very close to the Trump administration, and that has a lot of people nervous as well. In fact, as part of this hostile takeover, wanting to still get a hold of Warner Brothers, they've told Trump that they would change CNN, that they would pander to him via CNN if he would essentially say no to the Netflix deal and give him the bid instead.
Yeah.
Which is, wow, major corruption just out in the open.
That's very irregular, and that's the thing that scares me the most about Paramount getting in here. Even though I might say that Paramount is the more quote-unquote cinematic of the two companies making these bids, it's the dangerous lack of regulation that could come from this. That's the thing that scares me the most, which is why I say this comfortingly, and I said this in my opening thoughts there, trying to lay the groundwork, but I'm looking up certain news articles here from, let's say, BBC and the Wall Street Journal. Apparently, according to inside reports, Warner Brothers is prepared right now to reject Paramount's bid. So it looks like that might be where we're at right now, at least with them specifically.
Yeah, I am deeply concerned. I don't think this is going to be great to begin with, but all of it also circles back to David Zaslav and how terrible of a position he put Warner Brothers in to begin with all those decisions. You know, we can sit here and talk about how great of a year that Warner Brothers had. They garnered $4 billion in revenue, but because of their previous mergers, isn't their debt somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 billion?
I think it's over that.
Over that, 40 billion?
Yeah.
It's insane. So $4 billion doesn't quite put that much of a debt, which is crazy. Crazy.
You see how well Warner Brothers did in movie theaters this year. It's kind of hard to imagine what's going on behind the scenes like that.
I know.
Like, to your point, David Zaslav did some really dumb things as a businessman behind the scenes that we just didn't see.
Yeah. Quite wild. So the company has all this debt, but surely they knew what was going to happen when they did the Discovery merger back in 2022. So like, look, I'm not a business major when it comes to the economics and the financials of all of this. Some of it is a little over my head, admittedly, but I don't understand why they would take on that debt, like knowingly take on that debt, then create a bunch of movies that have been profitable, that have done well. It seems like the formula, for the lack of a better term, has started to work a little bit, which includes them burying some films for tax incentives, which is obviously terrible. We, like, as film critics and lovers and cinephiles, we hate that, but it seems from a financial perspective that what he's been doing has been effective. Now, again, I say that as a layman. Maybe a business major expert can correct me on that. Maybe I'm way off there. I don't know. But I just, like, it just makes no sense to me why you would buy something knowingly that has this debt, and maybe that they did that purposefully to just sell it some years later to Netflix. Maybe that's
maybe they had. Yeah, I don't know.
Zaslav's going to become a billionaire out of all of this, right? I think that is what I read. So I think the whole thing was selfishly for him to make money.
Well,
and
that,
everything else.
That does happen sometimes. Companies will put themselves in a certain position so they can get bought out by another company, and then they take a massive pay cut, or not pay cut, but a payout from that. So it becomes sort of a manipulative thing, and that's perhaps an explanation as to what's going on here. And given that debt that Warner Brothers is in, it just must be one of those cases where the great year that they had here wasn't enough to offset that risk to maybe try to get themselves out of it in the long term. They just want to make a short-term change here, and that's what's going on here, unfortunately. So yeah, you're right. You have to point the finger back at Zaslav and think about how the company was being run and the choices that were being made, and how unfortunate all of this is because of past mergers and admittedly some things beyond his control and beyond the company's control, like streaming disruption and certain things like that, some things that they just couldn't expect and couldn't prepare for, but they didn't make up for it. I mean, they had bad ads that didn't support that either. They just didn't have good marketing and word of mouth to support those bad decisions either. So that's there's a lot more negative riding on this for sure.
Yeah, I think the moral of all of this, if there is one, I think at the end of the day, this is just going to be nothing but a nightmare. Either way. And look, I don't love the politics from the Ellison's side of it.
I don't either.
I think that it's extremely troubling.
Yeah, and honestly, it has, in a weird way, while it has everything to do with the specific administration that is connected with them, it also doesn't, because I just hate the idea that something like this would be happening that goes beyond typical regulation, because this type of acquisition should be equally as regulated regardless of which company is trying to make the bid. And I feel like being that tied to any type of government organization, they're gonna find loopholes. The loopholes, the things that scares me.
None of this should be happening anyway. Disney
I agree.
Never have been able
agree.
to buy Fox.
Yeah.
This should be nixed from the get-go.
Yeah.
If we're going to live in a capitalist world where competition is key and we want to protect competition, I understand that buying out your competitors has always been a capitalistic strategy. That's been going on forever. But simultaneously, there's been a recognition that that competition is vital. A monopoly, it drives prices to a degree that historically has not been great. And we are veering very close to that.
Yeah.
Disney, like if the government should have nixed that whole acquisition with Fox. And this should equally be nixed.
Yeah.
But it's going to happen, and we're going to be left with what, 3 major studios. And then you have the Neons and the A24s of the world, which can't really compete.
Yeah,
with
that'll eventually
Disney
get bought out anyway then.
and Netflix. Yeah, exactly. God knows how that's going to go down the road here. Which is like, I saw like a really funny tweet about how like, it's 2030 and Apple Disney has been bought out by Netflix, Warner Brothers. And
I think this was in relation to that. I saw a really funny video on Instagram of a guy putting on a movie with his girlfriend or something. It's like, hey, you want to watch a movie? And it shows all of the logos. It says Netflix bleeds into Warner Brothers, then bleeds into Paramount, then bleeds into like the Saudi Arabia support country or something like that. And then it ends with a film.
TikTok.
Ends with a film by Woody Allen. He goes, maybe we shouldn't watch it.
I saw that on TikTok. Yeah,
that's
great. Exactly where we're headed.
Yeah,
that's exactly where all of this is headed, and it just is not good. I don't see how the lack of competition here is going to service artists and creators, and it just feels like not only are we going to lose the theatrical window, which if we do, theaters are on the verge of becoming obsolete and extinct. But simultaneously, it feels like there's just going to be a bunch of red tape for creators.
Yeah.
And so you're going to get a bunch of garbage that may even come from filmmakers that we know are talented and good, but because of all the layers they have to work through, they won't be able to put out anything of quality. It just feels like this is a lose, lose, lose all around. Well, and Hollywood is just sitting there just biding their time.
Well, and that's why Ted Sarandos can say all the good things that he wants. It was only a day ago or so when he was talking about how with regard to this deal with Warner Brothers, I think the words that he used is that there would be no studio closures and no overlap, which is not at all like how it was when Disney acquired Fox, for instance. There was a lot of overlap there. He's saying there wouldn't be. Now, that sounds great on paper, sure, but it still leads to this overarching issue that we're talking about, that joint partnership, regardless of how distant the branding is, the competition's no longer there. And that's the thing that worries me. Like, I'd rather have 50 companies out there doing the same thing. At least I would.
I just hate to be all hopeless about this, but it's hard to feel any different given what we know about what's happening here. And it feels like we're about 20 years away, maybe sooner, who knows, of us living in a world where there aren't theaters anymore, and essentially all we get are what they're doing now with the Harry Potter series. Where just everything is going to be built to be a Stranger Things, a Harry Potter series, a Marvel series on some sort of streaming platform. And that's how, that's what the content is, which is crazy because I think I read something, I'd have to fact check this, but I think I read something that it is actually young people that is driving most, or at least a significant chunk of the theater going revenue. People seem to think that it's young people that are the culprits here, that they're the ones staying home watching Stranger Things and Harry Potter, when in reality, it's the older generation that isn't going to the theaters as much. Look, I will say this without even fact checking. If I'm looking at my own local cinema as like a sample of that study, that makes sense to me. I don't see much of my parents' generation, for example, at theaters. Not when I'm there. And I'm there like more than just on a Friday and Saturday night. And I just don't see them. Now, I mean, I'm sure they're showing up on Senior Tuesday discounts at 9 a.m. and what a life that is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a very different... I mean, people of that age have a very different energy at that time versus 7 p.m., right?
Yeah, for sure. But I do think it is a younger person's game for the most part. They are the ones going. So I don't think Sarandos is correct when he's stating that what young people want is to just stay home and watch Netflix and Stranger Things. Like that just doesn't seem reasonable at all.
It doesn't. At the same time, too, it's like clearly the market has changed. And when I think of myself going to the movies nowadays, granted, I don't always go at the most populated of times because if I'm going to go by myself, I usually like to go at a showing that's not as full, if that makes sense. But there are times I do go to, let's say, a Friday night showing for an opening movie. Very rarely do I see what I used to see all the time when I was much younger, and that was people going to the movies in a large group. For the most part, I mostly see no more than 2 or 3 people going to see a movie together. But when I was much younger, it was like you get 10 people together, you go to see a movie. Like it was kind of a party. Yeah. I don't see that anymore, at least where I am. And again, maybe I'm too selective with my movie times. But clearly the market is changing a bit. But to your point, if I do see any group there, it's always a younger demographic. It's not the parents' generation, the Gen Xers, if you will. It's not the baby boomers. It's not quite that. It's maybe the oldest ones are usually millennials, which is our generation. So I think you're onto something there.
Well, can I ask you a question? I have no idea if you're privy to this at all, but I'm just trying to think out loud here for a moment. Netflix, I know they went out and got some assets for their bid for this. I know they're valued at around $400 billion or something to that effect. But what is their actual cash flow? I want to know.
I have no idea.
I want to know. Well, and again, maybe this is just, just thinking out loud, but they don't put their movies in theaters, right? So the only revenue they have coming in are subscriptions.
Yeah.
And on top of that, it's been an open secret for years that people share passwords.
Yeah.
And share accounts. So you and I, in theory, have separate Netflix accounts.
Yeah.
But people share all the time. So if we shared a Netflix account, that's what, $15-$20 they lose. And how often is that, or like how prevalent is that? I know, and I know they've been fighting that for a while, but we know that happens to some degree.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
I say all that again to say, where is that money coming from? There's no way they have $400 billion in cash.
Well,
Again,
and to your
I'm
point,
not a business economics expert at all, but I just don't like. How are they getting this money? How do they have these assets to do this?
Yeah, assets and cash flow are not the same thing. What you get in cash flow, it doesn't 100% go to assets. It's kind of like, for instance, an investment you make by simply owning a house, for instance, right? That doesn't create cash for you, but it is an asset. Like that builds equity for you. And many companies have similar things like that.
But what other assets do they have, though?
Oh, I don't know what that is. I
guess that's, again, I know I'm thinking out loud. I know I'm not expecting you to provide.
I haven't studied
answers.
their numbers. I haven't studied their internal.
You
business
mean you're
model.
not Chat GPT? You can't just spout out a bunch of nonsense to me.
No. But to your point, whatever their cash flow is, I mean, whether it's coming from subscriptions, whether it's coming from ad revenue, like there are other things like that that certainly partake in that. I don't know what all of those assets are that make up that figure you mentioned, that $400 billion figure. I think you said it was.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what all that capital is.
Well, and again, that's the thing is like, I know they're valued at whatever billions of dollars. I'm sure they have assets in something, but they also have, at least if what I'm looking at here is correct, they have $14.5 billion worth of debt. How are you valued at $400 billion, but also have $15 billion in debt? Like,
I mean, maybe I don't know. Could that be the money that they lost by putting some of their movies in theaters that they normally don't do?
I don't know. I don't understand any of this. But look, I bring it all up to say Netflix, it feels like they're pulling whatever strings they can at the risk of, I don't know if it hurts their company at all.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're. I guess it feels like appropriate to the theme of the show, like they've made a deal with the devil.
Yeah. Well, okay. As you're talking about there, I'm trying to see if I can get a sense of what some of Netflix's assets could be that maybe contribute to that $400 billion figure. And maybe this is just the way that streaming platforms work, because it's a very different business structure than anything else. But I think a lot of times that asset value can change depending on what's on their library, because of a lot of what's on their library could also be a certain partnership with certain production companies and certain distributors, and that also could play a part in it as well. And when some of those partnerships temporarily end, that could shift how those assets are, which is why you sometimes see movies and television shows leave Netflix, but then they'll get something new to replace it, maybe to try to maintain some type of level of consistency. That's my only guess. Like I don't know how all of that works, but I think maybe a lot of that contributes to those assets. But there's certainly more to it than just that. That's maybe the first thing I can think of that I'm trying to find here online.
Yeah, I mean, and in all honesty, too, the other elephant in the room that we haven't really talked about, again, because we're not we're a film podcast. We're only talking about this because Netflix is on the verge of buying a major studio and it's going to have a huge ripple effect.
Yeah.
But the other thing too, we haven't talked about is that God knows how much money they're making by selling data. In fact, that might be how they're primarily making their money.
That's a very fair point. That's probably the big one. That's a great point there. Yeah.
They're probably sharing or selling that data for God knows how much money. Maybe double what they're getting in subscriptions.
That's
that.
Probably,
I wouldn't be surprised.
That's probably the main basis of their cash flow. That's probably what's offsetting what you talked about earlier, how people share passwords and get away with it. That's their way of making up for it plus more.
Yeah. And I didn't really think about that till just this moment, but that makes sense, honestly, I guess, in hindsight, in addition to the subscriptions and any other assets they have. I mean, I'm sure they have property and all that sort of stuff, equipment that nets them some sort of...
They're going to be making a lot more money pretty soon, because I don't know if you heard about this. Did you hear about this thing called the Netflix house?
Maybe.
It's like a giant museum-like theater Netflix experience. It's this giant building where it's think of it as kind of like Universal Studios, but for Netflix stuff. Like they have a Stranger Things section. They have a Wednesday section. The reason why I know about this is because apparently it's the only one that I think it's the only one that they put in the country. I got to look that up. But the reason I bring it up is because it is 15 minutes from my house. That's where they put it up. It is in the King of Prussia Mall.
Gotcha.
And that's apparently it is getting bank as far as the okay, it looks like there was one in Dallas as well. So I guess
so maybe they do have the money.
Yeah.
Okay, look, maybe they have the money.
Yeah, it's an immersive entertainment center. There's one in Dallas. There's one in King of Prussia, which just opened, and apparently there's a third one planned for Las Vegas. So that's what that is.
So maybe they have the money. Maybe they're not as cozy with the Trump administration as the Ellisons would be. But like, and that's why a lot of people do think they are the lesser of the two evils, just for that alone. And I don't trust the Ellisons to do the right thing either. But man, do I get nervous. Even if that is true, even if worst case for both scenarios, they are the lesser of two evils for the sake of argument. I just don't love how they're going to kill the theaters. And it does feel like that's where it's going to go if they win.
It does. It does. Yeah. And like I said, Ted Sarandos can say everything he wants that sounds good on paper. And talking about no studio closures and no overlap, how Warner Brothers as a theater going experience will still be its own thing. Okay, sounds great. Sure. If that leads to even less layoffs, if not no layoffs, sounds great. But I don't want the limit of competition. That I don't want. I don't want that to be severed. And granted, Netflix and Warner Brothers have very different business models. They partook in this entertainment industry in very different ways. But I thought that was good. Like I thought they each had their own identity, and I thought that was good. And I don't want that severed either.
I kind of wonder if, you would think Apple. I know they have their streaming service, but you would think they have the money to get into the theater game more.
Yeah, like where are they in all of this?
Like, it feels like some of their movies go to theaters for a limited time or limited run, but
they do terribly.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they mostly what they do is they're more like Netflix, obviously, and so but it feels like they have the resources to be a major player in the theater game, and they just choose not to.
Like imagine if. Let's say hypothetically, and I'm not supporting this, but let's say hypothetically Apple TV specifically was the one that won the bid to buy Warner Brothers and it went into fruition. What if they utilized Warner Brothers to distribute a movie like Killers of the Flower Moon instead? And Warner Brothers was able to turn it into some type of cinematic event. Like that's what Apple, they need at least some type of consulting agency like that to work with them, as opposed to just throwing these movies in theaters as like some sort of wasted experiment, which is all they've been doing as of late. Yeah,
it's strange. It's real strange. I mean, I'm sure they have some sort of internal strategy there. But at the same time, I'd love to know what that is, because it does feel like Apple streaming, like the Apple movie, those are always the forgotten ones. People are like, oh yeah, that movie came out on Apple.
I know. It's seriously.
People just don't talk about the Apple movies as much, and they have some really great stuff at times.
They have some great shows more than anything else. I think that they've been specializing. They've been specializing more in, Severance and Ted Lasso, and very recently this new show called Pluribus, which I haven't watched yet, but I've heard great things about it from the creator of Vince Gilligan. So they definitely have more of a niche in that department.
And maybe that's it. Maybe they just spend most of their time creating the television side for the streaming service, and I'm sure that is a major priority to them. But I mean, they obviously have the money too. If they just wanted to be in that game more, but they're just not.
You talk about assets that a company has, right? Yeah. That's what Apple has.
And the reason I bring that up is because of what you're talking about in terms of competition. Because right now, if you want a major movie that's going to go into theaters, your options now are Netflix, Disney, Sony, and that's it. But Apple could be one of those players, though, in theory.
Yeah.
But I don't know what it's going to take for them to get into that game, if they even do. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just want to stick to phones and TV shows.
Watch what happens, GD. We're going to release this episode, and in a few hours later, we're going to hear that Apple is making a bid to buy Warner Brothers.
Apple, yeah. So, I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it kind of like how Searchlight is kind of slowly started to diminish a little bit. I mean, that's the way of Warner Brothers, probably. I don't know. I hate to sound all bleak about this, but it feels very, very bleak.
I mean, it's not even that. Remember how much of an exciting thing it was going to the movies as a kid, hearing the fanfare for 20th Century Fox? Which,
Yeah.
okay, I get is now 20th Century Studios, but I feel like we don't see those movies that much anymore. Or at least we don't
No.
see that brand as much anymore. And
No.
I don't want to see that happen to Warner Brothers. I don't want to see it get suffocated like some of these
Yeah.
other great iconic forms of movie iconography that we used to have.
Yeah.
I don't want to lose that.
I mean, it's like MGM, like
Oh yeah, we don't see that line as much anymore.
that line, like you might see them once or twice a year. I mean, they still make movies, but they used to be the studio, like the Hollywood studio,
True.
and now they have no thumbprint in the market. Like
Did
they
they-
just like that iconic lion is it just doesn't have the same zeitgeist pull that it once did.
I'm trying to
that's
look.
probably where we're going with Fox and Warner Brothers now.
Did they release any movies as of this year?
I'm pretty sure because I do feel like I saw The Lion in theaters at least once. Let's see if I can look up the filmography.
Was The
real
Accountant
fast.
2 one of them?
That came out this. Did that really come out this year?
Yeah, it did.
Really? Wow. Oh yeah. Another Simple Favor. Wow, they did that one. What else?
After the Hunt.
After that's where I saw it in theaters. Yeah. So they did it After the Hunt. Okay, so that's their one big player, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Big player. There's a very loose
Yeah.
term there.
They did Project Hail Mary. That's interesting. That's seemingly a bigger-ish movie. One of their bigger ones for sure.
Apparently, there might be some big hype for Masters of the Universe as
Yeah,
well.
I was gonna say I do see that on here. The Travis Knight film.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. I mean, they have some notable films coming up, here in the next few years. So anyway, all of that to say, I hope that Warner Brothers, I hope that Fox doesn't go way of MGM, where they're barely a footprint. in
I
the
know.
cinematic
I know.
diet.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
We'll see. Anyway, I think we can, it's just nothing but bleak dialogue. So I think we can go ahead and end it there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, we got to
know-
stay positive here.
Yeah, I know we wanted to talk about some films we've recently caught up on. We're a little late here, so we might have to do that next week on the show or sometime soon. I know we want to do some bonus content. That's on the horizon. Sam is going to come back. Sam has been wanting to come on the show. It's been tough to find the time because a couple of the films that he's seen, we didn't give, and by we, I mean you and I, we did have reviews of them, but that was Megan Kearns and some guests.
Right.
Because he saw Zootopia 2 and Predator Badlands. He wants to talk about those. He's seen Avatar as well.
Okay.
So I think this weekend we're going to try to record some bonus content with Sam talking about those movies. Maybe we can talk a few others as well that we've seen that we've recently caught up on. So
Sure.
if you want to get some bonus content, become an InSession Film VIP, patreon.com/InSession Film, YouTube membership, or Apple Podcast subscriptions. I'll put a link in the description below. You can find all of that information at InSessionFilm.com as well. Reviews this week. Both of them should be out as of this recording. Is This Thing On? Bradley Cooper's new film.
He has a
which
new movie.
Should
How cool.
be in the awards conversation more, I think.
That's going to get
very good
literally
movie.
0 nominations.
It's going to get no nominations. And yet you could make the argument, and Brendan and I do, that it's his best directorial effort to date.
Yeah.
Very, very good movie. And then we also talk about the Brazilian film, The Secret Agent, which I thought was a really great conversation. Really, really fun.
I'm liking
I
that
wish-
movie more and more as I think about it.
Yeah, I wish that I had some time to read a comment. We got a great comment on YouTube. I'm going to try to make time for it on next week's show.
Okay.
Because one of the questions that we had was around the weird, surrealistic hairy leg sequence in that film. And we got a great comment that gave vital context as to why it's in the film in terms of Brazilian culture and what it means. Like there actually is a very specific reason why it is there.
Yep, it's a great
and
comment.
I want to read that comment. It was fantastic. So we'll get to that next week on the show. But yeah, thanks to anyone that is listening to those. I think we're also going to have a review for Megan Kearns and I think Shadon. They are getting together to record Rental Family. They're going to do a review of that as well.
Okay.
New Chasing the Gold, speaking of Shadon, talking about the Shortlist. She and a guest break those down, and then a new Women in Session at the end of the week as
Oh my
well.
gosh, I was like that was not the devil voice.
That was not, no.
This is the Devil Voice, episode 666.
How many voices do you have on this pad?
Oh, there's a lot. There's
This one, which is sort of devil as well.
It's devil with reverb.
yeah.
And then there's me, the robot version of JD. There's this.
Oh my, that reminds me of a very particular robot.
And I'm a chickmunk. Yay!
No,
InSession Film.
you've got to do that one for a full review one day, and see how long it takes
Welcome
me to drive
the
me nuts.
review for Is This Thing On? Let's do it.
My God. So like,
Yeah. Look, I could have a lot of fun with this thing.
oh my gosh. Yeah. Stop that, please.
Yeah. Anyway, with all of that said, if I don't even know where I'm going now, I'm just totally lost.
We're ending
Subscribe
the
to the
show.
show.
This is a great way to
Subscribe-
end the show.
I know. Subscribe on here. I gotta.
Subscribe to the show on YouTube and Apple Podcast and Spotify and InSessionFilm.com.
Again, it reminds
so
me of
yes.
a very particular character. I can't place it.
Yeah. Love it.
It's wildly familiar, almost too familiar. It's kind of creeping me out.
Yeah, it's great. I do love it. Anyway, thanks everybody. Go check out those reviews. Women in Session at the end of the week, Chasing the Gold as well. With that said, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the InSession Film Podcast.